Howdy, and welcome to Risky Standard, an actual play podcast featuring a rowdy group of best friends playing tabletop role-playing games together. I'm your host, GM, Mitch Broesder. You can find me on Twitter at MagnesiumB, and you can find the show on Twitter at Standard Risky. You can also find us over on the show's Discord channel. Find a link to that in the show notes. With me today, I've got Pete Loftus.
Yes, it's me, Pete. I'm also on Twitter at Chip Enjoyer.
We've got Malcolm Hall here today.
Hey, Malcolm Hall here. You could follow me at Horde Scrum at x.com. I actually had a sort of viral tweet, if you will. I think I cracked like 250 likes on a single tweet.
Oh shit,
which
son!
Blew my previous record of I think 18. Out of the water. 17 likes was my highest one before, and this is like 250 likes. It's a fun little take on weather and drinking culture in the city that I live in. So you go to x.com, check that out. Horde Scrum, free Palestine.
And of course, we've got Timothy Manns here.
Hi guys. Hi risk takers. Good to be back here with you this week, and hope everyone's we're staying in the cold all right, staying warm and healthy.
Okay, and that's it from Risky Standard. We'll catch you all next week.
We're just kind of a weather update show now.
And if you've got weather in your town, come on by that Discord.
Okay.
Drop in and let us know if it's nice out or if it's not nice out.
To be fair, I was just looking at Malcolm's tweet. I wanted to see what it was. So I was distracted. It's a good tweet. I'm liking it right now.
Everybody's got weather. Today we are continuing our ongoing campaign of Beamsaber by Austin Ramsey. As always, you can find Beamsaber over at austins.itch.io page. There's always a link to that in the show notes as well. And I believe Austin also just released a new campaign setting for Beamsaber, a little supplement for that. It is called Stardust Memento, and it is a supplement for Beamsaber. It features new missions, regions, downtime events, squads, and mech designs. So check that out. And here we are. We are back from another successful mission. Our squad, bruised, physically and emotionally, still intact, and here, returning to Lowtower for another downtime session. Today, the squad will have a chance to recuperate and decompress after the intense action from the assault on Installation Indigo. But before you guys do, we do have some sort of loose ends to tie up and talk through. And I kind of want to get to some of that before we get into downtime proper, as it were. So yeah, we ended on like a really dramatic note last time. Carta, with the recaptured scientist Harlow Shellspade, and the kind of defecting marked band member, the young Luctoria man known as Bitter, you three escaping through the evacuation level of Installation Indigo in Dez's mech, the Mercuria, as the mountain was kind of crumbling down around you. And at the same time, upstairs, Dez had finished his brutal battle with Butte the Brute Halloran, his former squad member from the Belfry Boys, a fight that ended in Butte's death, and with Rhodes dragging Dez and the captured Grenfield scientist Rin Hynot up to the roof of this mining installation, where you hijacked or sort of commandeered a hover vehicle that was piloted by another marked band member who also sort of semi-willingly defected with you and took you out of there in this hoverbird, just as the self-destruct sequence of Installation Indigo was activated and brought the mountain down on itself, kind of imploding this former Orichalcum mine. And so we can kind of deal with some of this like a lighter hand, zoomed out a little bit. I don't need a blow by blow, but we have said, you are a couple of days out from the Lowtower, from where you were, And I'm kind of curious, like, how do you all get back to Lowtower? Do you reunite with Eleanor Fade and the here today, gone tomorrow, the kind of rail traveling cargo mech that brought you out here? Are you sort of escaping with I think Zed was this Mark Band pilot member's name. Then you had this this hoverbird.
I was imagining we like take this. I've been calling it like an aerolift or something in my head, but this hover helicopter, the aerolifter, and just because we're transporting like 3, I guess not quite fugitives, but like captives. We'd probably go. I was imagining coming to Coronatus into like having to patch into some like ring local radio. Like I don't know what a pirate radio air traffic controller looks like, but someone there who can like put us down in a landing pad where we can essentially just kind of get transferred to a ring facility and like moved through the city rather than like, not that I think they're flight risks, but I think now that we've like kind of moved up in the ranks, it's like interesting to see more sides of. And we're not the only cell here.
Yeah, and I think it is probably still, if that's the case, and you are bringing that this aerolifter in, I think it is still probably the threaded needle that you are in touch with, right? They are kind of the ring squad that is the infrastructure of the rings, like smuggling networks across Imber and the basin.
Here's another cool idea I just had. What if we meet up with that train on the way back and like land it on a like as the train's heading back, like landing on one of these like mech carrier platforms that can just kind of like.
Oh, that's fun too.
Yeah, and just kind of close around it. And
close up around us.
Yeah,
Like an aerolifter is probably smaller than your average mech. I'm sure you can like land on a mobile platform.
Absolutely is. Yeah, and this thing had enough room to bring all your mechs out there to begin with. So yeah, okay, let's do that. That makes probably more sense in the flow of the fiction.
Right, because then we can get rid of the the aerolift by the time we get to Coronatus, even if we leave it on the train and it's something that we go back to or
So I imagine what happens, right, is you land, and like one of the first thing that happens is, Eleanor Fade, the pilot of the Here Today, Gone Tomorrow, right, has this thing on auto, like running down the rails as you come in for this kind of like unexpected moving landing. And I think she is, probably has like a small crew, like 2 or 3 other people here, with her. They are, disarming Zed and Bitter, just like protocol instinct, seeing people in like an enemy uniform, disarming them, and then I think probably like tearing through the this little aerolifter, which I think is called the Dart. It's like like the name on the side, and they are pulling out like I imagine there's like a tracking unit inside there, right?
Oh, sure.
And right there, that's what they're doing. They're disabling all of the things in it that could lead the Commonwealth or Grenfield or the Marked Band to be able to track you right there. They are stripping it of all of the identifying parts, basically.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, a couple techs come in with like scanners, like patting her down.
There's a kind of like a, it's almost like balletic, right? Like just like the efficiency and like the cleanness with which they just move in and start doing this, and that they've done this to vehicles, hundreds of times, right?
NASCAR pit stop.
Exactly, yeah, that kind of energy. Just like it's not even a question of where to look for these things. They're just pulling a panel off, and it's of course there, and they're grabbing it. And then so maybe there's kind of this like somewhat slightly awkward train ride for a day back towards the Lowtower. And again, we don't have to like zoom in like pound for pound here unless there's like a moment we want to. But I think the general vibe. I think that Rin Hynot, the administrator and scientist from Installation Indigo, is not talking. I think she's gone completely quiet. She is I think you can see constantly looking around. I think like looking to see if there's some way that she can wriggle out of this, but I think she has otherwise gone kind of like she's not cooperating besides like doing whatever she needs to do, but she's not talking. I think Bitter and Zed are both the 2 members of the Marked Band are relatively copacetic. I think they're both, concerned about the sort of kill switches that they both have implanted in their chests that the Marked Band can at some point activate to end their lives. But you've told Bitter that you can get rid of that. And so I think he, for the moment, is kind of coasting on the faith of believing in you guys. And I think they're both smart enough to know that they're in a precarious situation right now. They're not testing the boundaries. And lastly, the recaptured scientist, Harlow Shellspade, I think is acting like almost nonchalant. There's kind of an ease and a comfort that he's carrying around with him that I think is maybe even like a little disconcerting to see.
Yeah.
But he's someone who has been a prisoner for the last, couple of months at this point. Has been probably shuttled around from installation to installation. I think there's like a real like feeling this is almost his old hat, and like what worse could the ring do to him than what Grenfield would do to him instead? So he's, I think, I don't know if chill is the right word, but he's certainly more relaxed than you would expect him to be considering the circumstances of his current position. And so I guess there's you guys are traveling there, and there's a question here for me, which we can answer, like I said, as zoomed in or as zoomed out as we want, which is, what are you guys doing with these marked band members?
I think like there's probably a moment like when we're on the train over this course of like a day or two. It's kind of fun that it's like a sleeper car or something.
Yeah.
Like there's a couple different rooms. I imagine that like one of these kind of like transport shuttles is probably equipped with like a decent staff of like Ring affiliates, right? They have techs here who are like stripping down. I think Rhodes would like walk over to Zed and Bitter, and like I'm imagining them kind of in, I don't know if we're in rows or whatever, but I would check in, right? And I think like we probably have a medic here. I'm guessing like some sort of field medic on the train, who I'm gonna maybe like just insist, can we just get these guys checked out? Like if they're whatever their chest implant thing is, like I don't know if we can hook them up to a EKG, and let's make sure Rin. Do we check her for remote detonators? She looks a little cagey to me. Can we like get some eyes on this? And I think kind of just moving through, right, is like where I'm just trying to invite those two to take advantage of some of the Ring stuff resources.
Yeah, I think they are seen too by like there's a field medic on this this kind of like troop transport, and the conclusion here is that they are both in good health. Bitter is like a young man in good shape. Zed is like much older. I think Zed probably looks like he's like closer to like 50, but is like still hale and hearty. The implant itself does not seem to be causing them any trouble currently. But I think the medic does come back to tell you like, yeah, like this is not something that they can take off on this train. You need someone like either a tech or a surgeon to deal with this thing. And I think maybe Zed would say as much to you, like this thing it's probably not going to blow up on you if that's what you're worried about. Maybe he's like looking at the doctor who's been kind of like examining him a little nervously. They can blow him up. They usually don't. he taps it, and then buttons his shirt back up. But Zed does tell you there's a neurotoxin in this thing. We're away from base too long. They think that we've run. The timer's going to go off. This thing's going to start leaching into the blood if we don't get like an all clear signal from the marked band headquarters again, or if you don't take this thing out of me. And so they have a ticking clock, basically. It's going to take a while for the marked band and for Grenfield to really know what happened at Indigo.
Well, don't worry. We'll take care of you boys. And let's get these shackles off these two. And, whatever, like some guy kind of unclips the handcuffs. And I think then in my head, like everyone is in like rows on a train, like a subway car or something, with these little, cells. And then going from them to Rin, who I imagine is with or sitting next to Shellspade in this like passenger thing. As for the two of you, Ring security is going to be a whole lot harder. You're going to have some questions. You seem a bit nervous, except for you, Shellspade. You don't seem too concerned at all. And
this like skinny like Loctorian scientist, I think pushes his glasses up. I think they've been taped in the middle. They've probably been broken during his captivity and like mended. And he just gives kind of a shrug. Out of one prison into another seems to be my life these days.
What is next for you then? Think off to a white collar prison, or maybe just a condo in Sedge?
I think he laughs. I think you would know better than I would.
I think you may have to start answering that question for yourself soon enough.
But yes, there's a question here for me, kind of broadly, which is like, what is your plan for Bitter and Zed as a squad? How are you guys? Is this like are you recruiting these guys, or is this just like is this catch and release? Is this what's the vibe here?
Well, we're under our quota for this season, so actually legally we can catch. We're going to measure them both and see if they're at length for DNR.
Huh.
I mean, I like Zed that he's at least like, hey, if you're worried about this thing, sometimes they do them, sometimes they don't. We're not going to blow up on you. So he at least seems, on board. I like these two. They both cooperated and are like less reluctant and seem kind of more like they'd rather not be where they were. So my vote is we bring them into the ring.
Right. And if it's the ring, we can't hold them unless they want to be held, really. We're not going to just force them to be like,
Yeah, they're not just going into a different conscription.
Would we put them in a prison? Like, I think that we kind of just have to at least offer and have that conversation, and they will be free to ask the questions they have about it as well. So
Yeah, I mean, is the ring like, would we just let them go? We don't really have prisons.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's all right. Like,
Yeah.
I think you're kind of not that you have every possible choice that you can think of in this game, but I think really those choices to me come down to you could free them, you could kill them, or you could offer them a gig, right? You could say, are you interested in doing some work with us?
Yeah, and if you decide not to work with us and you cause us problems later, I might just have to kill you then.
Yeah, my mind went to that second option too.
Carta's got the gun that Troubadour gave him, and it's one of those that's like, we don't want to make it an issue, but if you do cause us problems later, we'll face you then too.
Well, as the train keeps rumbling down the tracks, like, we don't have to drag this one out, but I at least wanted to kind of see what they were, how they were settling in, and I think maybe we'll part on this unless anyone's got anything else with, Rhodes like kind of making his way through this train car. I imagine, haven't seen much of the two of you, but maybe like in this passing here or something, like between a train car, like maybe Des and I just catch a glance quickly, but I don't imagine we're talking.
No, we're definitely not talking.
So it's like, maybe on this, from one end of the train car to the other, like just hold a glance for a second and kind of both go on our ways. We see the rest of the desert landscape keep rumbling by.
And then, if there's nothing else for like this travel a little bit, I think we don't have to like zoom in on all of this, but I think it is arriving back in the tunnel system, right? Moving through those tunnels with your potential new recruits and your prisoners, making your way back to Lowtower. I think Eleanor Fade and the Threaded Needle have already kind of called ahead to Troubadour, to Seldom Row. And I think, probably there is like, like a rail line, right? Like an old disused, like underground rail, like subway, right? That you transfer onto that brings you kind of like the final rest of the way into like a hangar outside of Lowtower. I think, Troubadour is waiting there with Seldom Row, right? And even, through the scatter mask, you see, just in the body language, in the face that's reflected from the scatter mask, the kind of like disbelief but exuberance that fills Troubadour at seeing that not only have you've succeeded beyond their expectations. You have brought Shellspade back, and you've brought another prisoner back. You've brought a whole assortment of people back. And I think this is, like, we don't have to touch on this like moment by moment, but right, I think there is kind of like this initial explanation, right? There is a handing off of this biometric scanner to Seldom Row that she's going to use to decrypt the data cache that you stole from Harlow initially. And I think also, right, Seldom is shown the members of the Marked Band and their kill switches, and she's confident she can disable them. You've gotten here in time. The neurotoxin inside them hasn't been released, and she can dummy up the signal that tells them to not release it. It won't be getting the thing like out, but it will be stopping it from killing them.
Does it replace it with like the apparatus or something?
Oh, probably. There is like the next time you see them, right? There is like a black cable coiled around the device on their chest. It is retransmitting the signal that keeps it from killing them every so often.
Oh, weird.
She's not a surgeon. like later someone else can get it out, but she can do something that'll stop the thing from activating and killing them. And like I said, we're just kind of like alighting over the beat by beat of some of this, because I think there is a lot of Troubadour has a million questions, and they don't have time to ask them all initially. There is like the business of rigging up a storage room here to serve as a makeshift brig for Rin Highnot and Harlow Shellspade. Troubadour obviously asking you like what's up with these Marked Band members, getting the answer from you, presumably that they are okay to be here and walking around. And so I guess if you want them this way, I think they're both willing to be this way. We can add these members of the Marked Band as the start of a new fire team for you guys.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah.
I don't know. We can talk about what kind of fire team they are. I don't know if you guys want to get into that now or want to kind of come back to it later.
I mean, there's only a couple different kinds.
Yeah, let's just...
Yeah, there are. So there are adepts, and adepts are like academics, scientists, mechanics.
Oh, definitely. These guys seem like scientists to me.
Yeah, real brainiacs.
Yeah. There are rooks, who are spies, con artists, socialites, etc. There are our rovers, which is drivers, astronauts, urban spelunkers. There are skulks, who are thieves, scouts, infiltrators, etc., or toughs, who are killers, bouncers, warriors.
They kind of seem like rovers or skulks to me. I'm leaning rover.
Yeah, I mean, I think if we want to call them rovers, you have this dart, this little arrow lifter. I think that is like a, if you want to claim that as salvage for them, as like a vehicle for them to start with, I think that these absolutely can be rovers, right?
Oh, totally. It's a two-man team.
Hold on. I was trying to find it on the recon page. What is a rover again?
On page 193 of the book.
Oh, it's in the book? Oh, okay, yeah.
One of the fire team varieties are, they describe them as drivers, astronauts, and urban spelunkers. But I think them being like a little, like assault helicopter 2-man team is pretty fun. Or, 3 to 5-man team.
Mm-hmm.
It's pretty cool.
And yeah, I think if you make them that offer, if you like ask them if they want to come work with you, I think Bitter would say as much, right? Like,
yeah.
Wasn't too particularly pleased to be working with the marked band to begin with, right? You try and rob one train, fuck it up, and next thing you know, you're a mercenary in a secret facility. And Zed, similarly is, I think Zed is actually like looking around a little bit more appreciatively at what you've got on. Is a little older, and I think even would say as much maybe to you, Rhodes, right? Feels like that old man connection. Time was I did a little smuggling with the ring myself, early days.
Is that right? Here on Imber?
You're on it, yeah, just flying a dart or two back and forth, dropping off things what were needed some places. Good folk, always honest, never stiffed me once.
Despite that bad heart, I knew you had it in you. I've got good news and bad news. You're still in a secret facility, but you are full-time.
It comes with a health plan.
Just because I started watching Neon Genesis today, but I'm imagining these like helicopters as being a little less helicopter and a little more like the VTOL lift things in Evangelion, which are like, I'm going to put a picture in the chat, but I'm sure the nerds who are listening know what I'm talking about.
Oh yeah. That's pretty close to what I had in mind, honestly, yeah.
Yeah, so it's like less of like a helicopter, more of like this lifter.
Ooh,
I think it
yeah.
even has
Yeah.
I imagine, if Zed's our pilot, like maybe Bitter even becomes like a, kind of tail gunner guy or something.
Mm-hmm.
But I really like this. I mean, we can figure out the fire team name later, but...
So every fire team or every cohort has an edge and a flaw, or it has multiple edges and flaws.
Mm-hmm.
I'll tell you right now, because I already know what it is for these ones. Their edge is that they are loyal. They cannot be bribed or turned against the squad.
Cool.
You have given these two men their freedom, and I think they are interested in repaying that debt.
Okay.
And their flaw is that they are wild.
That tracks.
Parentheses here. Wild means drunken, debaucherous, and loudmouthed.
I'm putting rowdy in parentheses.
Yeah. They are rowdy. They are not cleaned up for society per se, and they've not been around it in quite a while either.
I like that.
And so, yeah, it's like that is some of what's happening here as you first arrive back, right? Is like talking to these guys, Troubadour is helping you secure the prisoners in this like makeshift brig. And, I think maybe all of this eventually kind of quiets down a little bit. The prisoners have been secured. The devices the kill switches have been disabled on the members of the marked band, your new fire team. Seldom, I think, is already beginning the process of decrypting the data cache using the biometric scan, starting to like dig into that data and sift through it. You will soon have access to its revelations and its conclusions.
Oh yeah, and I'm dragging Shellspade in there to go over it with Seldom and I.
I think before we get to that, maybe I think that Troubadour does want to like kind of
sure.
have like a chat with the squad. This is like probably in the briefing room, I imagine, right? Everyone else, like I said, like Seldom is busy in her lab working on this. The fire team is busy getting kind of settled in, converting another one of these empty rooms into like laying down some cots and things and kind of recovering from the work Seldom was doing on them. Again, it's Troubadour at the hollow table at the stage, I think we're calling it now.
Yeah, the stage. Thanks to Mr. Bruce on Discord. He's the winner of our Name the Lowtower Furniture Writing Contest. So shout out to Mr. Bruce. Best to do it in Australia.
What's the next thing we should name in Lowtower?
The helicopter.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Ooh, yeah.
The airlifter.
Yeah. We need a new name for the squad's aerolifter for sure. So Troubadour is at the stage, right? And has given you all time to I'll probably also bandage up whatever scrapes and cuts you've sustained over the course of this mission.
I think I have a considerable amount.
Get some food in you, that kind of thing. And then they are kind of waiting there for you all to return. As the three of you enter the room, Troubadour, hands together, takes a deep breath and says, "You've impressed me on this mission to no end, Black Star Constellation. You've gone above and beyond. What you've done for me and for the ring, I can't begin to quantify. I feel humbled."
Why is that?
And I think Troubadour looks very seriously at you, Rhodes, and then at the rest of the squad. They close their eyes and look down, and they look back up. There's been a distance between all of us since we started working together. It's one that I created and that I reinforced. I think that it's time for a greater honesty between us, for an equality. And I think Troubadour reaches up to the kind of heavy plastic collar around their neck that emits the scatter mask, and they press a button, and there's a flickering, and the scatter mask fades away, and they remove this plastic collar from around their neck. And you are looking at, still in the poncho, the heavy gloves, everything. You are looking at a human. Bright silver hair kept in a short buzz cut. I think they've got kind of sharp, narrow features. And they've got this a band of face paint that runs across their face, across their eyes.
Like a little Adam and the Ant action?
Yeah, it's going to be Michael Stipe, like REM.
Yeah.
But it is the band of this face paint is a kind of ever-shifting gradient, the colors of a nebula, right? So these roses and pinks and purples. And does anyone in this squad read the newspaper?
The Sedge Sentinel?
Not the Sedge Sentinel. No, we're talking about Coronatus papers.
I don't know.
I read the comics.
Back pages for me.
I guess I'm looking for who would read the society section of the papers.
Would Des read it to keep up with any of his stuff with his sister?
Yeah, no, I don't think that Des reads the society papers.
That's funny. There's maybe none of you would recognize this person then. But I think that you probably would, just through seeing newscasts, through being in public and often enough, right?
Is Troubadour an anchor person?
They're not an anchor person, but you've probably... I think Carta is the youngest person, maybe is the first to recognize this.
They're a pop star.
Not a pop star, but
A
Troubadour
streamer.
is...
YouTuber.
Is a YouTuber.
Okay,
I'm
I'm sorry. Keep going. Yeah. They're on
I
Twitch.
keep guessing, and maybe you'll come up with something better than what I've got. Shit, I really wish I'd thought of YouTuber. Well, she is Ophidia Prosody. Troubadour, rather, Ophidia's pronouns are actually she and they. And Ophidia is the young scion of an interstellar trading company that is known as Prosody Strategic Initiatives. But she is a well-known socialite and a philanthropist. She is here on this planet ostensibly to represent her family company's interests, but people primarily primarily known for their presence in Imber's high society gatherings, right? Is at art functions, throws lavish parties.
So Troubadour is basically Paris Hilton.
Bruce Wayne is my pull here.
Oh, okay.
That was exactly what I was thinking. Yeah, but
I like the middle point between the two.
Yeah,
but not wrong, right? Is an heiress, is a young socialite. And I think says, as they power down the mask, those who know me in our line of work know me as Troubadour. Coronatus knows me as Ophidia Prosody. Those in the ring who know me outside of our profession call me Cameo. They, kind of look at the three of you and they say, I'm not sorry for the deception. It's often necessary, and it felt necessary at the time. I think they are thinking on this heavily, trying to think about how to broach this with you. You can see on their face now, and actually see it, right? You can see their expressions, not kind of half filtered through the scatter mask. And I think it's like pretty clear that they are kind of chewing on something that is a little bit difficult for them to talk about. But she starts to say, I was sent to Imber, to the basin in Coronatus, with this cover disguise several years ago, to observe and attempt to manipulate the social situation in Coronatus towards a more favorable disposition with regards to the ring and our activities here. During that time, I began to suspect that there was something more to Imber than just an abundance of resources and a remote location. When the Concordat arrived, it only confirmed my suspicions. Colleagues felt that I was wasting my energy when there was a revolution on and a conflict to win. I felt certain they were missing out on the real meaning of what was happening here. And they kind of lean back now, and they look at the three of you again, and they gesture, and they say, you were the compromise. A squad of disposable assets. A disgraced war hero that most of the ring thought was dead. An orphan with a deadly grudge against our enemies. A thief with the skills I needed and a vendetta I could leverage. None of them thought you'd make it this long. I didn't think you would make this long. And they, I think look down, right? Like a little ashamed. I see differently now.
I think Rhodes would maybe like sort of stand up and like extend a hand, like in handshake outwardly, right? Like we've all got a part to play. It's good to have you with us, but I hope you understand it wasn't always like this when I was in the ring long ago.
I think Troubadour stands and like greets the handshake, right? There's a real moment of apprehension here, of like a deep unsurety of how this is going to play out. Don't be so sure about that, Rhodes. I think the part of the ring that I represent, the circles that I have moved in, have been a part of the ring for a long time. There are things that need to happen sometimes that can't be the face of us. That's part of what I do.
I guess retracts hand.
Psych!
Ophidia is not the first face that I have worn in service to the ring. It won't be the last either. Going forward, things will be different here between us. As far as I'm concerned, you're as much of the ring as anyone else. If half of what Shellspade says is true, you might have just given us the chance to save the ring itself.
Well, where is he?
And I think, she gestures to the hallways beyond. Seldom is set up in one of the excess storage rooms. She's given a cursory glance at the data we've unlocked. It confirms some of the suspicions that I've held all along, and it points to some unexpected conclusions as well. But I suspect Shellspade himself might be able to give us more direct answers, at least quicker than looking through his files will.
Well, I expect we'll be given an opportunity to speak with him.
Yes, but it'll have to be now or soon. I'm giving the squad full access to all of Lowtower's intelligence tools, to all the apparatus protocols contained in the stage and the computers within. I'm going to be leaving Coronatus, and I'm going to be taking Shellspade and High Knot with me to Sedge. It's not safe to keep them here. We don't have the security, we don't have the manpower to protect them. I'll bring them to Sedge, where they'll be in a secure facility, and we can further interrogate the nature of Grenfield's discoveries. I've also been asked back. There is a gathering between the various members of the intelligence councils in the ring and the military councils. While you've been gone, the Concordat has stepped up its movements, both on the borders of the Cold Hearth Chaparral and the other ring-occupied territories, and also on the edges of the Commonwealth's borders. We suspect that they are moving to reignite the conflict and attempt to fully take control of the basin. I'm needed in Sedge.
Meanwhile, Carta is typing torture into the search bar. Ring torture devices.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's definitely on his mind. I think that, so Cameo is explaining this, I mean, you've had so many names, it seems. If you've been doing this for long enough, how many other teams, how many other expendables are there? Because if the Commonwealth is moving in, and if they're even half as powerful as the examples we've seen in the field, how do we stand a chance?
You're right, Carta. I worry that we don't stand a chance at all. And I think she, looks to Rhodes for a moment here. The Concordat is an inexorable tide, but perhaps with the information we gather from this data cache, from our discussions with Shellspade, we will find something here on Imber that will let us turn that tide, not just on this planet, but beyond, the wider revolution, the endless one.
And we have each other.
And we have each other. And I think she very purposely tries to meet each of your gaze in this moment to see where each of you are at.
I think Rhodes is looking at Des.
Des looks terribly disinterested in all this going on. He doesn't really care, I think. I think ultimately he doesn't really care who's behind the mask.
Yeah. It's like, isn't there some like Batman scene or something where like they pull the mask off of Batman? They're like, oh, it's some guy.
It's the Flash. Yeah. It's a good, from like the old Justice League cartoon. It's Lex Luthor pulls his mask off and realizes he doesn't know who the guy is because it's just a dude.
It's just some guy.
Yeah.
That makes sense to me.
Also, I fucking called it the Commonwealth. I meant the Concordat when I was talking about it. So, sorry, listeners. You can just go back and retcon that in your brain.
Can we take a little tea time here and then come back and go to the next scene?
I think, is this, do you all want to talk to Shellspade? Is that where we go next?
I absolutely need to. I mean, I think he needs to explain, as we are comparing notes from, the biometric scanner with Sodom Row there, you're going to tell us I'm a dumbass. You two need to explain it to me in a way that I can understand,
I'm dumb and I'm scary.
Yeah.
And so I think, Troubadour stands up at the stage, at the holo table, and, puts back on the scatter mask collar, and it reactivates. I'll be leaving with Shellspade and High Knot in the next few days. Perhaps sooner if I can arrange the transportation and the security. It's imperative we get them to a secure facility. I intend on asking him some questions now, just to get a sense of the shape of this whole thing. I'd welcome you to come join me. And I think she looks at Carta specifically here. I'm sure that you have some questions as well.
Yeah. Yes, I do.
And then, I think, back in the full Troubadour guys, they kind of move down the hallway towards one of these, like I said, I think it's a storage room, right? And I think when you kind of open the sliding door, inside it, there are, stacked crates with, canvas tarps over them, kind of scattered around, like a table off to the side. And there is, I think, handcuffed to a chair, at a table, sitting kind of, nonchalantly still, even with the handcuffs, looking almost bored more than anything else as you walk in. I think what he's trying to do, actually, with his hands down, handcuffed in front of you, he's trying to kind of adjust his glasses, but he can't raise his hands high enough to move them on quite the right way. And Shellspade looks up as the three of you enter and is like, my erstwhile rescuers.
Nerd.
Nerd.
He is, right? Like we described him before, I think he's got kind of like a patchy beard now. From his time at the Indigo, but he's just like a little skinny beanpole of a Lowtower nerd, kind of a shock of black hair, the curved goat horns. Like I said, these big, thick frame glasses that have the Harry Potter ass nose tape right now because they've been repaired.
Is it like
one of the marked band gave him a stick and poke?
Is he at a typical two-sided mirror police interrogation room table? What's the room?
You guys don't have that. This is not you don't have a brig. You don't have any of those those upgrades. I think he's in a storage room basically, just kind of handcuffed in front of a table. He's not in a interrogation room. I think it's if you go in, it's going to be just the group of you going into this room with him.
Okay.
The ring doesn't really have prisons in general to speak of. Prisoners of war is already kind of a murky gray area for it. But I don't think this facility in particular has ever had, a bridge, unless you guys decide to want to spend a squad upgrade on getting
no, it's fine.
a prison facility. Yeah, no, I think he's in just a room. This is exactly why, though, or one of the reasons why, besides the Concordat news, this is why Troubadour has to take him somewhere else.
Right.
This place is just not equipped to hold people like that. But I think what does this look like? How do you guys want to? I guess my question here is like, are there any questions you want to ask here, or like anything you want to know specifically from him?
Yeah, I do, but I'm gonna like Carta. You want to drive? You
I mean, I guess the big thing is just what exactly that facility was doing, and how long has this project been going on? I mean, we kind of know that through the Nexus information that I have, but
and like my other question to add to that is like, who else knows? And if it's a cradle, what's sleeping in the cradle?
I think Troubadour here does also kind of let you all lead in the questioning. They're going to have plenty of time with Shellspade, and also maybe the person who talks as both of them doesn't want to ask himself questions. But
I mean, yeah, I can kind of just
sorry. I'm just going through all those things you just asked. Like, let's start with one of those. Like, what's the first thing Carta kind of wants to point at?
I think Carta, throws some canvas off of a crate, pulls it up to the whatever makeshift table he has there, gets his finger, and pushes his glasses up into place so he can stop fidgeting and look at me.
Thank you.
You called it the cradle. What does that mean? And what the fuck is it? And make it so I can understand it, because I don't want to get frustrated if you're using too many fancy terms. Is that understood?
Of course. A simple man wants simple answers. I understand.
Watch it, Shellspade.
Of course. It's a complex subject is all I'm saying.
I'm a simple man with a lot of simple solutions to getting the things that I want from the people who have them. So let's talk.
I think Shellspade looks around the room a little bit, just to kind of try and get a sense of like who's the good cop, who's the bad cop, who's on my side, who's not. But he says, the cradle, the device that I believe you helped destroy back at Installation Indigo, was one of several ongoing attempts by my former employers, Grenfield Survey and Acquisitions, to engineer a prototype device capable of tapping into what we referred to sometimes as the orichalcum lattice or network, which exists under the surface of Imber. I'm afraid you have me at a bit of disadvantage here. I don't know how much you already know about what's happening on this planet.
Let's say I don't know anything.
A fair assumption.
All right. What is the difference between tapping into a lattice and mining it? Why can't we just pull it out of the ground? People have been doing that forever.
He looks around at all three of you. He's like, do you have a pen or a pencil, some paper, something I could...
Yeah, Carta finds something on one of his kind of bandolier straps. Maybe it's a graphite in a old back of a page out of one of the back of the Sem Bellwether books that...
Yeah. And, I think he starts kind of sketching some of this out, but the orichalcum that we mine on this planet is relatively close to the surface. It's the, same as you'd find on any other planet with a healthy deposit of it. We might have to dig down to grab it, but it's there. The lattice, and he's kind of drawing kind of an abstraction of this. And you've seen, some images of this on the things you do, right? Deep beneath the surface of Imber, there is this lattice, this network, this concentrated vein of orichalcum. There's no way to mine it. It's so deep. It would be a planetary excavation. But it can't be natural either. It's too designed. Does that make sense? We think, Grenfield thinks, that at some point in this planet's history, it was terraformed. They did something to it to grow the Imber beneath, or to grow the orichalcum beneath Imber's surface. It's very possible that's what led to the current conditions that we see around us. All the evidence indicates that this was once a much more bountiful world, a greener one.
So you're saying that when they designed this lattice, it started to destroy the surface, or am I misunderstanding that?
I think that whatever they did to grow it, as a knock-on effect, you might say, it took away the life from the rest of the planet. Turned it into the barren wonderland that I have spent the last decade and change of my life on. you got to understand, if we could understand how to perform this process again, this kind of terraforming, an endless supply of orichalcum, and that's before we even start discussing what the actual lattice is, what it might be for. That's just, any empty world could be a treasure trove. Imagine.
How many empty worlds do you know? You call this an empty world?
Relatively.
You've spent the better half of your life selling this planet, but what happens if it turns on?
And I think, he kind of shrugs a little bit here, and he says, that's still not perfectly clear to us. That is the fundamental question of the Nexus Initiative, attempting to discern the true nature of the lattice beneath the surface. Our mapping the lattice seems to converge at one point. And, I guess you can't look at it now, right? You're underground, but it converges at the beacon itself. The lattice, the network, becoming busier and more connected as it moves towards there. Our mapping efforts and certain hypothetical models suggest there might be other convergence points beyond the basin out in the dust. In my opinion, and of course, in my esteemed former employer's opinion, the nature of the convergence at the beacon, if I had to guess, seems most likely to indicate some kind of targeting element. Perhaps for a weapon capable of acting at interstellar distances. But we haven't found the control modules, if you will. We haven't found the place to do anything with it. We know it's there, some kind of design, some kind of machine, but we can't get at it yet. This was what we hoped the Cradle would be able to do.
And the more and more you research this, the more and more you find, is the planet only going to continue to collapse around this work? How much longer until you're gone? Till all of this is gone? Till Coronatus and the beacon itself either act as a weapon or turn to dust like the rest of this planet? Are they ready to leave? Are they all trying to get off this planet?
I think, Shellspade, looks a little like disinterested in the question. It's a strange miracle that there's any green life on this planet at all. Frankly, I don't understand why the basin is not as much dust as the rest of this place. But no one's trying to leave. No one in the Commonwealth knows about this besides Grenfield.
And what about Grenfield, your esteemed employer? Who else knows this? What is their intent? I don't think interstellar war was on Grenfield's Q4 forecast.
No, of course not. But you see, Meyer Grenfield, the acting executive, has something of a sore spot about his own company's secondary nature to that of Heritage Mercantile, to several of the other larger trading companies within the Commonwealth. He hopes to capitalize on the hidden treasures of Imber to propel Grenfield to the heights of power within the Commonwealth. Imagine you come to the inner chambers of Lowtower and you say, I can make orichalcum. I can strike at any blockade from any distance without ever having to set foot there. It's an attractive bargaining chip.
Sounds like a bargaining chip that'd be hard to put down.
If they figure it out before anyone else, they've got the claim to it. That's the thinking, the hope.
Yeah, until someone stronger comes along and takes that chip right out of their hand.
But you're the key, aren't you, Shellspade?
I think he smiles to hear that, right? Certainly, the greatest scientific mind from the initiative, absolutely. They were throwing darts at a board before I got there. I was the first one to recognize the pattern, see that it was leading to the beacon to begin with, that there was some kind of targeting element here.
Genius. A lot of blood has been spilled to keep it quiet.
And, he looks at the three of you. It's a war.
For some.
Not for me. I'm a scientist. I care about the research. If it gets them rich, well, I wouldn't mind getting a little bit of that pie too. But I'm afraid we've moved past that point, me and Grenfield.
Seems like it's gotten you nothing but shackles so far. You seen any of that money yet? Has anyone seen any of that money yet besides Meyer? Besides the rest of the Nexus team?
Don't tease him, Carta. He's not going to see any of it now.
Oh, I know. Just think about that. Think of all that you've already done, and for nothing. For nothing, for the pure science of it. I wish I could say I respected that a little bit more. I really do. But you threw a lot of that away when you looked at what they were doing and you said nothing. It's blood money. Any cent that would have come to you would have been dripping.
I think he can tell, I think at this point, right, there's something personal in the game here for Carta. And I think we get the first moment of him maybe suddenly feeling like a little bit less secure than he was before. And I think he says, I was a scientist doing exciting work. I was born in the Commonwealth. Do you want me to have run off, joined the anarchists, and done my science there? What have you discovered about this that was not from my own genius already? I needed the money that Grenfield has to be able to do this kind of work to begin with.
No one's pointing fingers. You pursued your passion. Everyone has a role to play. The ring could have use for that. If it's just about the money.
If you really are doing it for the
Just
science
like
of
you
it
said.
all.
Yeah.
Then I look forward to seeing the scientific facilities I'm sure I'll be brought to after this.
I'm sure you will. I hope they're to your liking.
And, I think, he kind of looks amongst you, waiting, if there are any other questions about his work, about what he's discovered. But I think you.
Oh, hold on. I have a question. Des jumps down from his chair.
Whose entrance music is this? Whose entrance music is that?
He's in the bleachers.
He walks over and, Harlow's sitting down. They're probably eye to eye with him sitting down and Des standing up.
Mm-hmm.
And he brings out he's got a very stern look on his face. And he sort of brings out, his index finger, this long, bony bat finger. And he, sort of points it at him. And he goes, "What? Wait, what is that?" And he points to his sternum.
He looks down.
Boop. I boop him on the nose, and then I walk out.
Take that, you fucking nerd. See you later. Have fun in Sedge.
Well, if that's kind of where we're wrapping up questions, and maybe, Des and Rhodes are headed out. Carta kind of like sitting, like trying to be earnest with, you're right. The facilities are never going to be what Grenfield can buy. But remember, we're really good at getting things that we didn't previously have. And I think you know that from the experiences you've had with us. And I promise you, if you work with us, I will do what's in my power to make sure that we get it to you.
Oh, I think he's genuinely surprised. I think he's kind of right, like mostly expected a bullying, and
This is what came up when they searched torture in the ring. Was just like promise them something.
Give them access to the work they want to perform.
All I can say is I will try.
And I think he says, well then, I'll remember that, and I hope you'll come see me once I've received my new accommodations. And I think unless anybody has any other questions for him, there's maybe a good place to kind of pin the Shellspade interrogation.
Yeah, that's good for me.
Yeah.
And so zooming out here again a little bit, I think probably in the next day or two, Troubadour arrives back at the Lowtower with, some kind of a handful of ring operatives, ring soldiers, I think in light body armor. And I think they're all wearing scatter masks as well, right? I think some of the threaded needle people are here. They gather Rin Hynot and Harlow Shellspade, and they head out on the rails towards Sedge. And I think before they do, like I said, Troubadour tells you, I'll be back as soon as I can. I need to understand what's happening with the Concordat's movements. I need to make sure that Shellspade and Hynot are in a properly secured place. I trust you to take care of any business that the squad feels necessary while I'm gone. But I also, I think she looks at you, Des, especially here. Scatter mask off while she's talking to you again this time, right? Like she takes it off as soon as you three are all, or you four are all alone in a room. Take some time for yourselves. It's been a grueling push, and we've finally gotten a hold of something material. We've made movement on this. You deserve a little bit of peace. And so, yeah, Troubadour is going to be leaving, which means that I think we can talk about at some point what your next mission is, but I don't think it's going to be coming from them. I think you are going to be a little kind of self-directed for the next couple of sessions. With that, as they leave and as they bring the prisoners with them, and your fire team gets settled into their new kind of place, and as Seldom gets to work on kind of cataloging and organizing all of the data contained in Harlow's data cache, I think we can kind of move into like the free play portion of downtime. And first thing I want to do before we kind of hit your specific downtime actions, we just like run through a few of like the bookkeeping things. First of which is Desmond. Do you want to give me a supply roll for the last mission, since you were the lead on the last mission?
Sure. How many am I rolling?
You're rolling 3d6. You're getting well paid finally.
5 on 4.
All right, there's a 5.
Mm-hmm.
So you guys are going to take 5 supply points, plus 1 personnel and 1 material from your faction bonus. It means you guys are like flush on supply points right now.
Yeah, y'all.
About time.
And we'll need to spend any excess before the start of the next mission. But yes, you guys you are flush with supply points, which is a reflection of maybe something else that has happened here, which is that just going over trust real quick. You are now at -2 trust with Grenfield, obviously. They really don't like you. You've also spilled over to now having a -2 relationship in general with the Commonwealth, which just means that the Commonwealth now like actively considers the Black Star Constellation like an enemy squad to be dealt with whenever the opportunity is available. Currently, they've gone from interfering to hostile. Groups with this rating will now actively seek chances to harm the squad so long as it doesn't create major problems for them. So you are now more of a known threat, a terror amongst the Commonwealth, as it were. But you've also gained enough trust with your own patron faction, the Ring, that you are now at +2 trust with them, which is you've gone from helpful to friendly. Groups with this rating will help the squad even if it doesn't create serious problems for them, and they expect the same in return. And this is maybe, partially represented by this kind of new attitude from Troubadour, and partially, you've got, again, better access to certain things here. You're getting more supplies kind of diverted your way. You've proven you can do the work that is necessary that will help the cause of the Ring. So you've got more trust with them, shitload of supply points. And then there's also maintenance here. Everyone can clear all level harm 1 and level 1 damage, right? Just the kind of the natural process of healing after a mission.
So if I still have Quicksilver interference, just from being downgraded last time, it's gone? Okay.
Now it's gone, yeah. That interference has finally ended. You are now back to normal. Similarly, Desmond, you had the level 1 harm slashed. That is now gone. You can take that off. And Carta, you look like you're clear.
I am clear, yeah.
And does anyone have any expended quirks?
I expended a quirk last.
Oh, you did?
mission.
Yeah. No, I just listened to that episode.
Yeah.
You expended Sonic Nullifiers.
Mm-hmm.
So if you want to spend a material here, you can refresh your quirks, the free upkeep action, which will not detract from the rest of your downtime actions.
I will do that.
So I'll just knock off that supply point, and normally we roll a dice to see how many you refresh, but obviously you're always going to refresh at least one, so I don't think that we need to roll the actual. And so that is kind of just like the quick bookkeeping. There is actually one more piece of, I don't know if I would call this bookkeeping, but it's like a question I wanted to ask that we haven't had a chance to look at yet, which is, you filled your stress meter last time, Desmond,
Mm-hmm.
and you took a scar.
Yes.
And we had not decided yet at the end of that mission what that scar was going to be. I am curious if you have yet, if you want to kind of clue us in a little bit on what you've decided, what scar Desmond has taken as a result of the stresses of this lifestyle?
I thought about it for a long time. I initially thought I was going to go with the Scar Hollow, but I've decided to instead, I'm sort of, whatever, living in Dez's mind a little bit, in my own mind,
This
walking
fricked
around
up
in
mind.
his shoes, this crazy twisted mind I'm living in. I'm kind of, I've decided to go with the Scar Harsh. And I think that is going to reflect. I think he is feeling after this, he is not really feeling any kind of release. After, this last mission, he's not feeling the release that he thought he would. He thought that he would be feeling really fulfilled and relieved and invigorated to go forward with a sense of justice, but really it's just a nagging sort of dull ache that he's like, well, that didn't work. I guess I have to move to the next one, and maybe that one will work. And maybe then I'll feel fulfilled. Maybe then I'll feel like there's been justice. Maybe then I'll feel like I've had my say.
Because
So
I know right after you said, well, that just happened.
For a second, I was
that's
like,
a thing.
Did I just? I was like, no.
Happened.
I literally was like, did I fucking say that?
Yeah.
So yeah,
I like that.
I'm harsh now.
Harsh. Yeah, that's a good one. And so that's to kind of reiterate it. In Beam Saber, these scars are things that you take that kind of give you a characterization note to carry forward after filling your stress meter. You can have up to 4 of them, and after you have gained your 4th scar, your character is no longer suited for the field. They are retired from the game, and we can talk about what that looks like if we ever get to that point. But they're no longer capable of operating in that way. And at the end of every session, when we ask a couple of different questions about getting experience points. One of them is you get experience if you struggled because of your beliefs, your scars, or your quirks. So, something to keep in mind, if you introduce that scar into a scene in a way that, makes things more difficult for you or makes you struggle, that is now another way you can kind of get a trigger for experience points. And so with that done, I think I'm kind of, turning the mic over to you guys a little bit. You each have 3 downtime activities. Does anyone have one they want to start off with? Anybody feeling strongly about that?
Yeah, I think is Seldom Rose still here?
Yeah, I think Seldom Row is going to.
They did not leave. They didn't leave with.
No, she is staying here to decrypt the data cache from Lowtower and kind of upload all of that information to the apparatus.
Sweet.
I think since she's already got a workshop here, it makes more sense for her to just keep working here with her setup than it does for her to leave elsewhere.
I guess specifically Carta wants to find out more about something that Shellspade said, that Operation Indigo or Project Indigo, whatever, was one of several locations of sites that were working on this, and just trying to get a better idea of how this is spread across Imber, and if going through any of the information we have gives us a better idea of how it's affecting the surface of the planet in any type of real time, if that makes sense. But just seeing how big and expanded this is across Imber, so that we have a greater map of what people who are trying to use this as a weapon, where they are located, I guess. I just feel like...
Sure. So is this a question about Grenfield's operations?
Yes. Yeah.
So I think that just sounds kind of like a gathering information thing to me, unless you have a long-term project that you're trying to tie that into, which is it's also okay just to gather that information. That's it doesn't have to tie into a thing. I just didn't know if that was
right. I mean, I have ideas for what the next long-term project would be, but it might kind of be a spend a drive clock type of situation. I'll just say this. Carta is now looking around for other people in Coronatus who have been affected by Grenfield, and maybe trying to gather other powers, other people who have been affected by this, to gather a force to move against Grenfield in a way. That's a really good expression of what I'm thinking in my brain, but
so you're broad picture, you're kind of trying to get a group of people who've been, because I guess you're kind of suggesting that at some point you want to make moves towards fulfilling Carta's drive in some way, right?
Right.
Is that like what we're talking about?
Right. So by having a larger map of where these other installations could have been, it gives me a better idea of who may have had interactions with these across Imber. How many of them could be in Coronatus? How do I reach out to the people who have been interacting with them or wronged or have information on it? It's expanding a web of people who might be able to send in tips back towards the home base.
So maybe then this could be a part of that project, I think, and maybe we call that project something like assembling a network of Grenfield,
A coalition.
assembling a coalition of Grenfield victims or victim. I mean, that's not the right word. Like
Defectors or detractors or...
Yeah, well, I mean, we can find the right words, but yes, I think that is essentially what the project is bringing those affected and kind of broken under the weight of Grenfield, bring them together so that we put our minds together to maybe keep working on a way to bring them down and maybe have them come together to help me spend that drive clock.
Okay, I like that. So I think that this is a 6-segment long-term project in my head. And at the end of this project, I think that you will have assembled, you'll have the contacts and the ability to kind of bring together a group of individuals who have been harmed by Grenfield's activities and by the kind of secret initiatives of the Nexus project, right? I think we already learned or kind of said, it was pretty clear looking through Sellers Montag's kind of blackmail file. Other people besides your family have also been, killed or hurt or intimidated by Grenfield to keep this secret from the other elements of the Commonwealth. And so if you're starting this by going down to look through the data cache with Seldom, I think that's a good start for sure.
Yeah. And in that, again, finding those other locations where these other...
Are there other surveyor families?
That was another thing I was going to say.
People like Carta.
Maybe finding the actual names of those people, where they might be, to reach out specifically to them, maybe?
Yeah. I think that's cool. Yeah. If you want to is that how we're going to characterize this? Yeah.
Yeah, especially if, Grenfield had a off-world recruiting program or something, probably all those families are in the system, right? Of people who came here to work.
Yeah, if it turns out they have multiple of these installations, there might be other families who are just like Carta, people found parts of this lattice, and in doing so, Grenfield was like, "Yep, take them out." Similar things have been left in the wake.
Yeah. What action is that? I think
it's probably going to be I guess study.
It does sound kind of like study to me.
Yeah, it's a study.
You do get 1 dice though if Seldom is helping you,
yes,
right?
Yeah.
I think she's got dozens of monitors set up. I think she's walking around the room trailing apparatus cables that are connected to her kind of vision visor thing.
Mm-hmm.
Right? She's fully in the mesh in the web of it right now.
Yeah.
Connected to the apparatus, decompiling this data and sorting it and sifting through it. But she does, she takes a break when you arrive. And I feel almost doesn't even have to ask. It's not a what do you want, but rather it's more of what are we looking for? She knows what you're here for and why, and is willing and ready to help you, right? In fact, I think you walk up and there's already a station set up for Carta, right? She's been expecting you to show up again at some point.
As he sits down, it's I want to know how many more Cartas there are out there. Shellspade said that there were installations across the planet. I know I'm not the only one, and I want to reach out to those people and see if anyone else has a fire burning inside them like I do. A way that we can harness that fire, bring Grenfield to the ground. But I need to start with knowing their names, where they're at, and how to get a hold of them. There's a lot of information here. And any help you can give sorting through it, just point the way and I'll do what I can.
And I think she places a hand on your shoulder and says, "Let's get started." Yeah, I think we get a space opera equivalent of going through the microfiche, right?
Mm-hmm.
So this is probably study. I think you are starting off with 1 dice because of Seldom. You could always spend a personnel here to add an extra dice.
How many personnel do we have?
You have 8 supply points right now, so you are.
Oh, should I do one of those? I mean, we have to spend them all before our next mission, right?
You have to spend at least 4. You can't have more than like the slots that you have. So
Okay.
you need to spend at least 4.
Yeah, sure. Let's do it.
We're not good at spending supply points.
And right, you're spending personnel. This is seldom taking the time, right?
Right.
It would probably be more efficient for her to continue cataloging everything that she's going through from like Harlow's data cache in like
She's slowing down what she could be doing to allow me to be like, oh, look at this. And it's like, yes, that is a file that says.
No, she's directing her focus, right? Like
Right.
instead, she's like looking for these things instead of kind of cataloging it in the most like efficient way possible. So yeah, that's 2d6.
All right.
If you want to roll to see what card it gets here.
Let's see. We're rolling. A 4 and a 2.
All right, so a 4. That is 2 segments on this clock to start. You could spend more personnel here to bump up the results if you'd like, but
I think that's good. Especially if I think I'm going to be doing more work on this project and even in this downtime, possibly. I think
Sure.
for right now that is a good place for Carta to start working to keep himself busy.
So you get 2, and I think this is like that night, Carta and Seldom, right? I think just like there's like like a percolator in here somewhere, right? Like drinking coffee, and just like sorting through files and kind of cross-referencing, like because you're not. I think there's probably a mix here of like obviously there's a lot of information in Shellspade's data cache about these installations, about like field encounters and things like that. But like the data that Shellspade's interested in is not always necessarily like, and then what happened to that family whose land was on like the site afterwards. And that is when Seldom Rose presence here really is a boon, because she is able to cross-reference these things very effortlessly with the broader records of the apparatus, right?
Mm-hmm.
Interviews, statements from other people, like property records, right? She is uncovering things like, oh, well, this farm, it was bought by a shell company that we can trace back to Grenfield, and the family that lived there were kicked off, right?
Yeah.
Things like that. You start to get like you're assembling a list, right? You get like an interesting node from the lattice that they like thought might be an interesting research possibility for developing a cradle. That coincides with reports of a surveyor family that were killed in a rock slide, right?
Yeah.
Survived by one daughter. That kind of thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
You start to kind of like pin together this map and this like dossier of like individuals that you could reach out to, that you start to feel like probably not all of these people are going to be hits. Not all of them are going to be necessarily like, yes, let me go after this company. But you're finding, I feel like it's almost like as you're reading the files, I feel like this has been your whole life, right? I think Carta maybe probably has a pretty instinctive sense for it, even just reading these files and like looking at these people of like, who's got that same look in the eye? Who also has got like that right history, that like feeling that like, this is someone who would want to do something about this as well. And I think, it's not a lot of people yet, and it's kind of arduous, like working through these things and cross-referencing them, but you're kind of working backwards to make a map of Grenfield's misdeeds and the people who were affected by them.
Yeah. Okay. Perfect. Cool.
So that's one downtime action down. Does somebody else?
I have to talk to Desmond. Like, I think we've been avoiding each other a little bit since making our way back, so I'm gonna go try and find. I don't know if I guess this count as a downtime action or just something that's going on.
This might just be something you're doing. You can like downtime is like also a time you can do a little free role playing if there's like a thing you want to do if it doesn't neatly fit with a downtime action, that's fine. If you find a downtime action that you want to work into like a scene, that also is cool. But if you just want to have that scene of talking to Des, I'm very interested to hear it.
I think that's like kind of it. Is like Rhodes is aware that Des is kind of going through it, and is gonna go try and find him. I think probably like there's more buzz of activity at Lowtower than we've seen like lately. Like, there's like techs around. There's more people. Where is Des? Like, what are you doing?
He's probably like shooting at bottles.
Oh, cool.
Kind of absentmindedly, just like plinking in the
junkyard?
yard. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think Rhodes kind of finds his way to you. What time of day is it?
Maybe like a couple days later, I'm healed up a little bit.
Yeah, okay. Middle of the day. And I think maybe as we kind of like look and Des is lining up bottles out in the junkyard, I think maybe, Rhodes is leaning up on a door frame or something, like kind of watching do your thing for a second. I guess we've seen you plug some pretty accurate rounds lately, so maybe it's like,
I've gotten a lot better.
Yeah, and maybe this is like a little bit like you've been out here kind of a lot. Like, Dez is out here really hitting the training pretty hard. And maybe it's one of these where it's like you just clear a round really fast. It's like those YouTube guys who are the speed pistol guys, where it's just like clink, 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 clink. Like you've just like knocked a bunch of them down and are reloading or something. It's, I think Rhodes might speak up and just say like, Dez, how you doing, kid? You all right?
I sort of like look over my shoulder. I take the earplugs out.
They're huge. They're big. They're like wine corks.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm fine.
You've been a little scarce.
I didn't feel like being abundant.
Well, you look patched up.
I'm feeling all right. They didn't get me too bad. Just mostly some grazing glances.
Look, it was ugly in there.
What? With Troubadour?
No, not with Troubadour.
Oh yeah, with the yeah. Yeah, it was pretty ugly, I guess. Maybe not my finest moment.
Why?
Why what?
Why isn't it your finest moment? I thought this was kind of your whole crescendo thing.
I think I showed a little bit too much compassion at the end there.
Too much?
I'm a little embarrassed.
Why? You didn't hesitate.
I didn't hesitate, but I did tell the guy I loved him. But I don't even know if that's true anymore. I think that, I don't know. I was just scared of him. We were all terrified of him.
It's a hell of a thing taking a man's life,
Yeah, well, I don't think I took a man's life. Between you and me, I think there's one less monster walking on the face of this earth.
Well, I think that monster was something like family to you.
I got new monsters for family now. Slides the magazine into the pistol, racks around. Is this what you want? Is this what you wanted to talk about?
Yeah, I'm worried about you. I think Rhodes probably like facing away from the range, right? Like you can go ahead and unload him like next to my face. I'm gonna keep trying to talk to you. You think I'm a monster? Like Butte?
I'm gonna be a tiger of a different stripe.
What's that make you?
I don't know. A penguin? I don't know.
Look, Des, I've known you for a while now. We've been running together. You're your own man. I'm not going to tell you how to live your life, but I wish it didn't have to be so hard for you.
I wish it didn't have to be so hard for me, too.
Suit yourself, but Carta, I think, looks up to you. And that comes with a little bit of responsibility in itself. We're perched on an edge of something a bit more precarious than I think Carta, or maybe even yourself, really understands. Troubadour seems to, or I guess we should call Cameo now, seems to have a little better grip on that. When I look at Butte bleeding out on the ground, I can't help but see a little bit of you in that. Seems like a man just making his way through the world. I don't know how many more allies we can afford to burn out like that. And granted, you've got your background, you've got your history. I'm glad we brought it to a head, but I don't know if all of our problems can be solved just by shedding lead.
There might be something to that.
Well, like I said, I'll let you get back to it. I'm not your boss, but I am your friend, and I don't want you to suffer in silence.
I mean, I'll start hollering for you. How about that? Would that make you feel better?
Brother, you didn't holler for me last time, and you didn't holler for me the time before that, and I'm still the one dragging you out of that hallway.
Well, you're right about that.
I don't know if that's a luxury Butte afforded you, but I hope that the difference can at least speak to our bond.
Well, keep it in mind. If the boy wants to look up to me, he can do that all he wants. I've been around too long. I'm not changing anytime soon.
No, I know you're not. But we're supposed to be fighting for a future where a kid like Carta doesn't have to put a round through someone's forehead just to get through the day.
Well, that might be what you're fighting for.
So what is it, Des? What are you fighting for? Tell me. I don't think you can outrun this war.
Well, we'll just have to wait and see.
So, I mean, it's a real question. We're all on a turning point here. Butte's gone. What's next? Are you out? No one's keeping you.
No, there's still plenty left. There's still plenty of work to do. Work for you, work for me, work for Cameo. I'm just gonna say Troubadour. That's weird. I don't like the way that sounds. Plenty of work for Carta.
There's a greater work, son.
Hearts and minds, Rhodes. Hearts and minds. He puts his earplugs back in and he starts plugging away.
Yeah, I think Herbs kind of shakes his head and heads back inside. He's trying. I'm a single mom who works too much.
Who loves her kids and never stops. The heart of a fighter.
Heart of a fighter.
You're surviving.
Yeah, I mean, I had to shoot for it. I think Rhodes is worried about Des, and I think that is trying to figure out what it is that Des is fighting for. I mean, Mike, I don't know if there's no real belief here. This isn't even really cutting loose, but I think Rhodes now has this kind of like vested interest in the same way he kind of got it. Like, I don't know. I think like Rhodes is trying to save Butte a little bit and is worried that like Des is just kind of try and burn that candle out to its wick. And yeah, that's all I'll leave on that.
I mean, if you want that to be your cutting loose, we can certainly call it that. You spend a time with a pilot to relieve stress and learn about them.
Yeah, I suppose so.
Which would give you another belief if you feel like you have one in mind for Des.
I do have like a belief in mind. How would I put it into words?
Yeah, you want to make that your cut loose?
Yeah, I mean, like one of them. Carta, you got to cut loose too, so I don't want to bail out on that. So we'll definitely still cut loose. I'll cut loose with you. We haven't had a thing in a while. Des, I'm going to say like, Des is looking for an exit, but I'm, not going to let him quit. I'll put it into something nicer later, but I got one in there.
Yeah. Let's go ahead and roll 2d6 and reduce stress equal to the highest result. And it'll now cost you 3 stress to help Des next time because you care a little bit more about him. Ooh.
That's good though, right? Like,
no, it's bad. That's 2.
That's bad.
You reduce your stress by 2.
That's fine.
It turns out that was maybe not actually very stress relieving.
Not too much relief.
Crazy, yeah. Crazy to think that was not fulfilling for you.
Somehow. Yeah, you want to pop up next on the schedule for downtime actions, Des? You haven't done one yet.
Sure, that's what I'd like to do. I think my pitch is I'm going to go to the what the fuck is the name of this casino again? The saloon?
The Lost Crown Saloon.
The Lost Crown Saloon. And I'm gonna like get audience with him somehow. I'm sure like I can, right? I'm sure I could like get in contact somehow. Be like, hey, I need to talk to Reva's Actual. I go to the Lost Crown. I check out some of the repairs they're doing, and I talk to him. How hard is it to get it? It's probably pretty hard, huh?
It's actually very difficult.
Well, I can spend resources to get that.
I don't think you need to though, because so you're going to try and work here on your Night Flyer Society intel.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I think it's actually not as hard as it would be in almost any other situation, because a Chiropteran named Siegfried, who looked very much like Desmond, was at the Lost Crown pretty recently when...
Except Siegfried had a beautiful mustache.
Yes, he did have a little mustache.
Yeah.
But somehow, the security team at the Lost Crown is still able to connect with this Chiropteran who has sort of started looking around and kind of asking questions about Rebus Actual and kind of like milling around. Looks quite similar. And so I think this is probably, you're like in there talking to people a little bit, like working around. And then I think like two burly security guards in these maroon outfits, pistols kind of like holstered under their jackets, but like the bulk of them readily apparent, clearly armed. Do you remember what Siegfried's last name was?
Spendlove.
Siegfried Spendlove. Yeah. These two guards, these two sort of enforcers, I think show up. You're on the first floor. You're not on like the lily pad lounge, the kind of VIP second floor. You don't have access to that. But they kind of like, muscle up on Desmond as Desmond's digging around downstairs. And I think are kind of like, Mr. Spendlove, you've been invited upstairs to the lily pad lounge. Mr. Actual would like to greet you personally.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. Yes, of course. I, Mr. Spendlove, would love to accompany you to the lily pad lounge. Des is thinking, damn, that was easy.
And you are then, brought upstairs. We are back in the Lost Crown Saloon, the upstairs of the lily pad lounge. There's like a vapored mist on the ground from the humidity. There's the plants. There's the dark paneled wood. There are people at the foray tables. There's music. There is life. And you are brought away from all of it through a set of swinging back doors into the back of house, down a long hallway with fluorescent bulbs. And you are brought into a room in the kitchen. It is kind of like a butcher station, right?
Okay.
Right. You are brought into the back, into the kitchens, into like a room where there is like there's like a triops carcass on a table, right?
Yeah.
My God.
With like a big cleaver stuck into it. And this is like a tiled floor that is like slightly slanted. There's a big drain in the center to catch all the
Des
blood.
is fucking scared now.
Oh yeah, right.
He's terrified. He was like, damn, that was easy. I'm gonna go right up there and talk to him. And now he's like, oh, they're going to string me up.
Yeah.
Like a Christmas goose.
I think you were brought to this room, and there is no one else there, but these two guards kind of like stand on either side of the door, kind of blocking your exit from the room.
Do they shove me in? Were they rough?
No. They walk you
Okay.
in, but like they walk behind you and they kind of like shepherd you in this way where it's like they don't leave a space for you to try and slip away between them. It's very clear that, like, I think maybe there's a moment where Des tries to look behind him, see if he could, and it's like, oh, they're on me.
Mm-hmm.
And then, through another room, another door into this like kind of backroom butcher's table. Yeah, in this kind of kimono-esque robe, this tall, muscular, green-skinned Vajanoi, this frogman, the frog prince of crime himself, Rebus Actual, steps in through one of the other doors. He's flanked by two more security guards who kind of position themselves also like at those doors as well. And so both exits out of this room are now guarded. And, there's a moment here of like Rebus Actual looking to Desmond. And then he gestures with one hand and does like a little bit of a half bow. Cultural liaison, Siegfried Spendlove. I didn't expect to see you again here so soon after the unsettling incidents that accompanied our previous interaction.
Well, he's kind of like putting the voice back on. Like, well, yes, I wanted to check and see how things were doing and how the repairs and renovations were going on at the Diadem Royale. I was also hoping to speak with you, sir. Is it chilly in here? I'm a little cold.
I think you're quite comfortable where you are. And, the warmth goes out of his voice a little bit. Spendlove, that's an interesting name.
Mm-hmm.
Not the one that I hear when I look around, when I ask around about you.
Oh, is that so? There's only one Siegfried Spendlove that I know.
I think Rebus Actual kind of steps up to this triops body and kind of like one hand very gently resting on like the butt of a cleaver handle. I'm a busy man. I'd rather skip the pretense.
Yeah, you probably could have also maybe heard the name Desmond. That's another name I go by.
Yes, you.
In certain circles, someone like in my profession, I have to, keep people on their toes.
You and your squad certainly did an excellent job of that the last time you were here, Desmond.
I think it was a real screw job, but hey, there's always next time.
I brought you up here because I was interested in why you might show your face here again, especially come as you are without any gifts to apologize for what you've done, the mess you made in my house.
Well, I was hoping that we could talk about that. I came here to talk to you. Is really what it comes down to. Listen, I may not be as a large a man as you. I mean, in the sense of your standing in this particular line of work that we both find ourselves in, or not. But I'm just here to bend the knee. I wanted to say I'm sorry. We're all sorry. We didn't really have anything to do with it, but like it's kind of our fault. And I was hoping that we could smooth things over. And also, I would like something from you as well.
And this is a nice wrapping for a request.
Okay, why don't we zoom out a little bit here?
Yeah.
Why don't you make the roll that you're going to make to get this information, and then we can kind of talk about what that is.
All right, what am I fucking rolling for this?
That's a great fucking question. I feel like sway sounds likely to me.
Yeah, we'll do sway. So I'm rolling 1d6.
So you could spend personnel to get an extra dice here if you'd like. You could also spend it to bump up the result instead afterwards.
I guess I could bump up. I guess I could bump it up after. That would be a better idea, right?
I don't know how math works, honestly.
I don't understand how that works. I'm just gonna roll 1d6 and then we'll figure it out.
Sure.
I have a feeling I'm gonna roll a 6 right now, though.
I like that. Okay, I love the confidence.
I think I'm feeling big 6 on this.
I'm calling the shot. Oh,
hey,
wow! Hot dog!
Wow.
And Malcolm is a psychic, folks. He has compelled the machine to give him a 6.
Yeah.
So that's going to tick the remaining segments on your Night Flyer Syndicate clock. And, so I think the way that this goes is that Rebus Actual, I think, is like, I accept your apology. I understand that you are not directly responsible for the appearance of the agent of the Concordat.
And I didn't even know who that guy was. I heard the story later. It was fucking crazy, but I'm sorry, continue.
Yes, they've proven a certain willingness to stick their nose into things that don't concern them here on the Imber. But let that be in the past for us. I would be very willing to discuss certain matters with you. Of course, as you know, my time is valuable. Nothing here on Coronatus is free.
Oh, I know.
And so, I don't think we have to roleplay out this whole conversation. We can kind of talk about what Desmond gets from this.
Yeah.
What are kind of the, I guess, from you, what are the big questions Desmond wants answered?
I think the big questions I have answered are, what kind of business is the Night Flyer Syndicate mainly in? Like, what are they trafficking? How do they make their money? What circles are they rolling in? And what, how often are they coming to Coronatus? I think those are the main answers. I'm trying to figure out a way that I can like infiltrate their circle or whatever, get closer to them.
So, some of this we talked about a little bit about last time, and I kind of expand upon it here. But the two primary kind of trades of the Night Flyer Syndicate is smuggling and like information brokering. They trade secrets.
I guess I remember that, but like what kind of things are they smuggling?
I think it's a mix. It's drugs, weapons, and like technology, stolen technology, like Commonwealth technology to people in Coronatus. A lot of their stuff is a lot of their work that is done is, like I said before, primarily in New Revalo.
Mm-hmm.
They do a lot of kind of trading. I think they're doing a little bit of corporate espionage probably at this point. Kind of facilitating the kind of things that like Harlow Shellspade was trying to do, like one scientist leaving a big company for another and bringing trade secrets. But they've also been expanding. They've actually been kind of making moves into Coronatus, trying to court customers, both within the, kind of like the Commonwealth powers that have a presence here in Coronatus, but they're also trying to get a foothold in like the Coronatus City Council. Right, they're trying to have leverage. They're trading information with council people, with kind of high power players in the Coronatus nightlife scene.
Okay,
there are rumors that they are trying to make connections with off-world powers. They're trying to grow the business so that it can expand off of Imber.
Intergalactic.
They're trying to get out of here, and Rebus is not happy about it. Right, for a long time. I think not for a long time. The Night Flyers kind of came out of nowhere about, 10-ish years ago, whenever Des went to jail 9 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And they rose to power rapidly because they had secrets no one else knew or had access to. They knew things they shouldn't have been able to know about powerful movers and shakers in New Revalo. And that is what let them kind of like establish themselves suddenly and rapidly. But they were in New Revalo, and Rebus did business in Coronatus, and they were happy to kind of leave each other separately that way.
It's almost as if somebody was helping them along.
There's more and more they have been kind of moving into Coronatus, stepping on Rebus's toes, on his business, courting his clients.
So he's not happy about them either.
He is not.
We have a sort of common goal, sort of.
Yes. And the other thing I think that you get, from him, which I think you knew in like rumor, right? You've known like the rumor is that like this like one-eyed bat is the leader of the Night Flyers.
Mm-hmm.
There's no question anymore. Rebus names him. It is Salvation still.
Mm-hmm.
And his right hand, his enforcer, is his sister Jocasta still. They are both still together, and they are still like working as a unit, and they run the Night Flyers.
Mm-hmm.
That is for sure where the former mastermind of the Belfry Boys, the kind of like the leader, the planner of the group, is where he has ended up.
Yeah.
With his sister, the killer. And I'll go on even further to say that, like, you know, you maybe even get from Rebus descriptions of some of their like lieutenants that match up with descriptions of some of the other Belfry Boys. You get a sense that like this new syndicate, the Night Flyers, has become kind of the landing ground for most of the other Belfry Boys, aside from old Butte, who has ended up.
Butte probably would have been with them if he didn't end up in the Slammer.
Very possible.
Very possible. Are they involved? Are they involved at all in Coronadus politics?
Absolutely,
they are. Are there actual members of the syndicate in holding seats in Parliament or whatever?
There is one.
What?
There is a newly appointed like minor council person, like one of the junior council people. Is let me pull up his name. It's a Lectorian, not a Chiropteran.
Oh my god!
One of the Lectorians from.
I thought you were about to say it was about to be Thea Desdemona.
No, it is not.
And to be like,
it is a Lectorian known by the name of Alloy Braithlight, who used to operate kind of as the face of the Belfry Boys, kind of like the deal maker, like the negotiator.
He's right here in Coronadus.
Has the description matches. I think you can like correspond it later. One of the former Belfry Boys has very recently been installed as a junior council person in the Coronadus sort of city council, which I think probably like there's like 100 something council people. It's like an enormous legislative chamber.
Yeah.
But yeah, and it's by the Night Flyers backing, right? Their money, their connections that have kind of wiggled this person onto the council.
My God.
And yeah, I mean, you know, I think, you know, Rebus is happy to kind of spin out more answers here. But I think the more as the conversation goes on, you know, there's like an increasing sense, the feeling of like every secret given to you, you know, every name uttered is being put on a scale.
Mm-hmm.
Right? You can see it behind his eyes. Right, a calculation that is occurring with each new thing each question that he answers to you, and then there is a point where whatever balance he's seeking is reached. He feels like it's heavy enough, and he looks at one of the guards who just nods slightly, and he, unfortunately, Desmond, I am a busy man, but it's been a pleasure to talk with you, and I'm sure we'll be in touch soon with such mutual interests.
Oh, Rebus, the pleasure is all mine, I assure you.
And so, yeah, you are left with this, you know, you've got this kind of confirmation that the remaining Belfry Boys are working for this Night Flyer syndicate, that they are smugglers and information brokers who are making a play at politics and at expanding their business, not just to Coronadus, but eventually, you know, up the beacon and beyond it to worlds beyond.
They'll eventually, you know, if given enough time, they'll just be another one of the corporations that run the Commonwealth, you know.
Hustle until you can go legit. I think that's the path they're on.
Well, this has been enlightening, Rebus. I'm sure I'll be hearing from you.